The frustration on this part is, we're looking at two players there and strong links. It all seems to be summer, as we said, because it's a World Cup year, which makes it really tough at the moment. But doing a bit of digging as we do at Anfield Index, and obviously linking to things from the summer as well, Liverpool are having a look. It's such a tough market in January. No one's going to pretend that at all. But the info that we've got, we mentioned this on a transfer show the other night, are Liverpool have had scouts at Sporting in Lisbon, and Sporting Lisbon specifically, so we'll talk about a few players there that have been mentioned. But also Liverpool have got interest in Paul van Hecke at Brighton. Now, doing the same sort of process for Van Hecke, 25, will be 26 at the end of the season in June, so the good age that we talked about before. 7 caps, so not a wealth of experience, but a wealth of Dutch pals there as well, isn't there, at the club? There's a real Dutch feel, so he'd become the 6th Dutchman, potentially, if he was to join at the club. Bloom and Barber are in the mix, which always makes negotiation a nightmare, because you think Steve Parish is hard to deal with, or, a shrewd negotiator, you're talking Bloom and Barber, 2 of the best in the business. But, gotta say this, Van Hecke's people indicated in the summer he's not going to renew. So he will have 18 months left in January. And then obviously a year at which, the price is going to drop. Bloom and Barber will, they'll fully get that more than us, and they'll have a yardstick, as we talk about. But from a stats point of view, we'll get into it. But we said we watched the footage, did a bit of the eye test. I've got to say, there's things I've got concerns about, but for a centre-half, he doesn't play like a centre-half with the ball, Van Hecke, does he?
No. I think he's 7.5 progressive passes per 90 in the Premier League. So that's up there. Yeah, that's pretty exceptional, to be fair. Just his quick pass here, he's got a bit of a mixed bag. We'd be lying if we didn't say that. Right. He is good aerially. I think he's actually only down at an average of 62 in the league, 52 last year. So he's improving, basically, what I'm saying to that. Even on here in the last few days, he's got 76. So, yeah, he's coming up on that. Blocks, does a lot of that. If you watch the footage, he just seemingly like a magnet at times.
Yeah.
So if there's a cross coming in, bang, he's there. The shot coming in, he's there. I mean, one of the games I watched with him was the game at Anfield. And there's a moment where we've got a great move, and Trent pings it off for a 1-2, and bang, straight come through the middle of it. Back out, it makes the block, wins the ball, plays out the other end, and they go and get a shot off. So you forget in that game how well Brighton played, and he was key part of that, really key part of that. And in terms of in the middle, what does he do? What he said about his passes, he carries the ball as well. So 97% carrying, 1.8 a game. It's not high, but still it's a decent amount for the Premier League. In the box, shot grenade actions, if you watch him again, I think this comes from, looking at the footage, you understand it, he puts a cross in. Yeah. So he's often not in the box for set play. This is going to sound weird. He is in the box set play, don't get stupid. For some of them, they sort of switch it around, recycle, gets pinged out to the right, and it's him on the ball to whip the ball in, right?
Which is weird, because he scored a header in the Premier League late for them in the recent footage. It is a bit weird the way you use him that way.
So, I mean, I'm all for a bit of variety, but I think that might be taking it a little bit too far, because I think I'd rather have the guy who's, 6, he's over 6 foot, in the box. Excuse me, being old-fashioned, but trying to win the header rather than trying to create it. But so I think the shot grenade actions is because they ask him to cross the ball a bit, and therefore he gets assists and the rest of it. But his actual not playing a goal was a mid 67 percentile, so it's not high. But if you look at what he does, he also has a bad habit of going to ground. Not gonna lie to you, that is something he does do. He is strong, plays right over 2, which is what we want. Through balls, so some of those progressive ones are also through balls, which is good. Very good for us to look at. And I thought he's 1-1v1 defending. You watch a lot of the footage. He's there up against Havertz. He's up against Jesus. He's up against I can't remember the goddess that is at City. and he does well in those one-to-one situations. So he's quite handy, and he doesn't get the handsy, doesn't get into the grappling motion. He's just there being a good one-to-one defender. Only thing you can see, if he goes out wide, he gets megged quite a bit going out wide. Now, I know the Premier League, you're playing against really good wingers, but it's just something when he gets pulled out wide, that is a bit of a weakness of his game. I've watched in a lot of the footage I've watched him. So, yeah, I think if he plays right over two, I think he could have a strong influence for us. It's just you want him in the box or crossing in the box, but his passing is certainly good enough. His aerials are certainly in the right direction. So yeah, it seems like a fairly good, I would say, a Premier League proven profile for us to go after, and to look at certainly having on the squad roster. The only other thing I would add as a caveat, so going to ground is something you've noticed. You'll see get made wide, but everybody get made wide. Because he plays for Brighton, and this is not his fault, he won't be used to playing twice a week. So, although he's clocked up some very, very good minutes, because he's an ever-present for Brighton, has been for the last 6 seasons, right? Pretty much when he played, missed a few games. But so he's clocked up, 2-3, 2-9 in the last 2 seasons. Great. So that's gone up. Yeah, he's got more than that in other competitions. But he won't be used to doing Saturday, midweek. And you'll see that is a big problem for a lot for players, right? Centre half less so, they can get trained and get used to it. But you've seen players coming before better than this guy. This guy's good. That are used to just doing one set a week and just completely fall apart when he asks them to do twice a week. So that's just a caveat. I think there's a few things in his game which would be interesting to see what Slot does with them. I don't think he's generally going to ask him to put a ball in for set pieces. Generally, I don't think he's going to be doing that. And as long as we keep him out of the wide positions, I think he'd be good. But essentially, defending 1v1 was quite impressed. And he's doesn't quite. So whereas Dalot and Schlotterbeck quite happy to come up and get it and win it and nick it.
Yeah.
Van Hecke's not that kind of guy. I didn't see any evidence in doing that in the footage. I think he more like hold position and deal with you when you come onto you. So, and that's fine. I'm not against that. You know, it'd be nice to not have a centre half going and putting his own fires out like if he's had to do the past few seasons. So, yeah, I think to answer your question, I think this could be a smart buy. I think Brian might be up for a purchase in Jan. May not be. I don't know. They're not stupid, are they, with their money and their finances? So maybe we get him in Jan.
The big thing about the finances in Jan, and this is important to say, that Brighton were looking for a fee. There was various suggestions when he checked back about 45 million for him in last summer, knowing full well that Spurs, Newcastle, they were kind of touting him around because it became clear Van Hecke wasn't going to sign. 2 years left on the deal. Brighton are shrewd operators. We know, they don't make mistakes like we do and end up in these situations. They're not that type of club. It's the nature of how they do business. Now, if he was 43 million or 45, million, from suggestions in the summer, the price has to have gone down because in January we'll have, I know he's playing well and people will look at that. And as you called out, I mean, the progressive passes and the progressive carries, that's two massive strings to his bow there. And as you also said, Premier League proven, because we're always going to have to mention things like bully tax and that adjustment as well. Yeah. So Premier League proven at the same time. But the reason I'm mentioning these figures, Barts, is Liverpool haven't got a piggy bank. Don't get me wrong. We are not Mo Chatra on Money Talks, but there's at least 35 million, quote unquote, sat there because it wasn't spent on Mark Gay, was it? In the summer. So, and we're being told quite clearly that Mark Gay from Ornstein, Joyce, all your major players, it's Gay in the summer. There's no, it's January, it's not going to happen. Liverpool don't think a deal's done there. But Van Hecke, and I'm not saying this is the exact fee, but up to 35 million with 18 months left to go. Does that not seem decent business overall? I know it's not the sexiest purchase for some, but with its progressive nature on what we're lacking at the moment, Premier League proven, not 26 until the end of the season. Dutch, doesn't it seem like a good deal?
I think that seems a very good deal. I think if you've already said, you say it numerous times on the transfer show, January's a really tough market.
Yeah.
To get value, to get a player that fits your system, right, without paying over the odds for it, right? So if you can get him for 35 million quid, which is what we, like, quite rightly what you said we were going to spend on Gay, and you structure it so we don't actually pay that amount up front. You know, we pay whatever we do, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that could be shrewd. And then if you already have the others lined up for the summer, Gay plus one other, I think you sort out our backline problems moving forward, right? I think that's a really clever bit of business. I think equally, if you go back to what the deals we have done in January, right?
True.
A Premier League proven starter for a top 10 club versus going and getting Davis or the Turkish guy, I can't even remember, as a stopgap for centre half, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have moved on as a club and we're in a very good position. And I think that's a shrewd. If you get him for that price point, wages aren't going to be that high. I don't know whether is he in this. I can't remember if he's in Dutch squad or not. I didn't check that far, but I didn't think he was in the Dutch rotation. I think that makes a lot of sense to get this guy in, and he would solve your problems in January straight away. You could just play him.
Yeah, and also if he does go off the boil or carries on, shall we say, you've got a progressive option there. It does seem just such a shrewd business move. Again, needing to be supplemented in the summer, but for Jan. The other two, and this is going to sound harsh because I don't want to spend a massive amount of time, but as we said before on various shows, Liverpool have had scouts at the sporting games, and there's a few names that come up, and it kind of strikes me sometimes, Barts, that, you know, listen, we do transfer stuff, but people like a sexy name, or there's a link and it's new and it's brilliant and all this has got to be. But the two that Liverpool have been linked with, I'm probably butchering his name here, but Zeno Debast, Belgian international, DM and centre-back. Ousmane Diomande, as we know, a player that we've looked at before. Now, a couple of things with these. Diamande's 21, 22 in December. Same agency as Virgil van Dijk. So, Liverpool have a good relationship there. So, that will work in favour. Debast, 21, 22 next week, literally, as well. The big thing about Debast as well, speaking to a few sort of Portuguese sources, and shout out to Tom Cundert for this, is that Debast is not a physical centre-half in the Portuguese league. And in fact, quite a few of the Portuguese sources speaking to says he profiles better as DM rather than centre-half. And Sporting have used him in both. Diomande, decent in possession, but not maybe as progressive as the others. It's not trying to do down these players, but I don't think they strike as high as two of the ones we've mentioned there, do they?
No, I mean, if we look at Debast, right, you are absolutely spot on by saying he's not physical. I mean, do you remember Hugo Laurie?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So you get where I'm going with this, right? This Debast is probably better than that kid, right? I don't want to talk ill at past players, but he can pass the football. That's pretty obvious he can, right? I think he's made 47 progressive passes in 7.5 starts for Sporting. I know Portuguese tax, the rest of it, but that is 6.37 a game, right? That's an incredible amount of progressive passes. It's up there somewhere. It's 6.335 a game. I think if you look at so this is the stuff that he's exceptional at, right? In between the boxes, passes attempted, pass completion, progressive passes, 99th percentile for last year around the top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the stuff where people will talk about. He's defensively, he's got a 44% area win rate. That's just not even like our academy players would have a higher win rate than that.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I don't mean to not the kid, but that just wouldn't work for us. Right. It's like, the guy from Bournemouth, Hussein, the centre half.
Yeah.
So he plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Dean Hussein can play the pass a bit like this kid, can play the ball, can do all the carrying stuff, but Hussein can actually defend as well, right? This kid seemingly hasn't developed that part of it. He plays right in the two. He's made 6 starts. He looks to have taken the place of Diomande, by the way. Diamande's only played once this season. He came off, and then this kid came on. And he's another centre-half who likes to take a set piece. Right? He doesn't like to be on the end of them. And he shoots something like, it's basically has shot per 90, like every other game he has a shot, right, on target. That is right. Shoots a lot for a centre-half. If you watch a lot of the footage, he gets pinged out, he's taken it, and he's finished up in the pocket after a set play, and he's there trying to fire a ball in. They're not all on target, but he's just, so I think he's, playing him as DM would be interesting. But again, in the footage I watched, I just watched him play centre-half, so, because that's the thing we were looking at. So, but now, as centre-half, I think we'd be mad to play him centre-half in the Premier League. I think he'd get bullied. The likes of, there's a lot of Chris Woods type players in the league, better ability than Chris Woods, but that kind of physicality matters, right? They would just absolutely destroy him. I think United have got a big, strong centre-half. Arsenal have, City have. They've all got centre-halves that would just go, do you know what? I don't fancy Van Dijk. I'm going to go and sit on you. And I don't think you'd be able to handle them. So for me, there's huge upside in what he can do on the football, with the football. Yeah, I get that. But there is the other side of the game, as we saw there on the red. You've got to be able to defend. You've got to be able to do some basics. And as I said, the footage I saw, I'm not saying he was poor defensively, because again, Sporting have a lot of the ball. But physicality, the rest of it just wasn't there. He made up for mistakes by being quick, which is never a good recipe for long-term success.
You're right. And like similar when you see the footage of him, excellent on the ball, a good footballer, like great passer, range, like you said. You can see that, done do well for Belgium in the minutes he had as well when we watched that. But a lot to like. But as you said, in the Premier League, and I think his name's almost is in the mix a little bit in terms of, because people want to say, oh, well, Liverpool need to be more progressive from the back. So here's a really progressive guy who's playing centre-half at the moment. But if he's in the Premier League, and you mentioned some names, and honestly, I thought this when watching him, thinking of the games we've played. Remember we played Palace? I think Mateta would destroy this kid. Absolutely ruin him.
Yeah. He killed Ibu that night. So he's going to kill this kid. No, that's just facts. That's going to happen, So, yeah.
And the Chris Woods,
I agree.
They're going to be licking their lips if he's in Liverpool's back line, just saying, just keep the ball away from Van Dijk. Don't worry about that. Just attach yourself, and we'll play on that side type of thing. So there's that. And the other reason I mentioned, because Diomande, as we said, same agency as Van Dijk. We've looked at this kid, and people will bring AFCON and other things into the mix, but experience, the passing rate and bits like this. But it's important to say that when you watch, or from the bits you can watch this season, a lot of it we had to go back to last season. The back seems to have taken his place in the Sporting side somewhat as well.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. Again, this has dropped off. When we last looked at him 6 months ago, right? This profile was a lot better. But that's what happens when you don't play. We don't play, but when you do play, you come in on a sub, you do minutes. It's aggregated up, and if you don't play well for 15 minutes here and there, it just causes you, like, your data then looks a problem, right? And he still attempts a fair amount of passes. His pass completion's good, but they're not dangerous passes. And when you watch him play, he'll win the ball, he'll bring it just over halfway, and he'll look for a 5-yard ball. He'll be like, look, who can I give this to? I don't want to be here, but I know I can't lose the football, so I'm just going to give it to somebody else. Right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong, because at least he's not giving it away. He's not trying to Ibu drift over the top, going nowhere. But it doesn't add to our game at all. I mean, some of them, I saw him take the ball up to halfway, turn around and play it back to his keeper. Yeah. Now, I know we don't want to lose the football, but that's a bit extreme, right? Funnily, though, when you watch him for Ivory Coast, he's different. He was pinging it out wide. He was drifting it over the top. He was trying a different range of passes. So I don't watch enough of African football to tell you what the level is. I wouldn't suggest as that much, but they're both below Premier League. Maybe both below Premier League. So, yeah, I think maybe he doesn't like coming into a compact area in midfield with the ball, and it gets a bit like, whoa, what we're doing here, right? So his passing, he gets a bit affected. But aerials 67 will round out for him. Still pretty decent for aerials. I think he plays right over 2, which is why he's not playing. I've written down uncultured passing, and that's me being kind, because at times he looks very uncomfortable. I think I said to you off mic, he reminds me of Yaya's brother when he played for us at centre half. The way he passes the football is a bit
Colo Torre.
Colo Torre type. It's just not. It's not. You know, when you watch Van Dijk, he's got this lovely body position. He's got his arms up. He's pinging the ball. It's majestic, right? This guy isn't that. All right, he's just not that. So, I think he's another one who likes to get an arm on a shoulder in a duel, bit of a duel monster. Wins the duel, but he still likes to get an arm on the shoulder. And he attempts something like about 4.5 progressive passes per 90 last season. This season, it's unfair to judge him. He's not playing. But no, I think he is used to playing twice a week. You've got to say that about a Sporting lad. Because they're in Europe, they're used to doing it. He's clocked up minutes. If we were to sign him now, he would come off the back of, I would say, a fairly unsuccessful season, unless something massive happens. Touch wood, I don't want to wish it on anybody.
No,
there's a guy playing better than him in his position, and seemingly the manager's pick, right? So unless Debast falls off a cliff in terms of his form, Diomande is going to end up, I would suggest, being on the sidelines for most of the season, right? So he's not going to clock up fast minutes. So you're going to sign a centre half not probably in the prime of his form that he was last summer when he first looked at him. But yeah, I mean, they're both 21 as well. You wouldn't know that looking at them. You think one was Debast looks younger than Diomande, but I think these two are a notch below the 3 we've looked at. I think you've got Schlotterbeck and Dalot kind of at the top. You've got Van Hecke, the next one, and then these two are kind of down here. And I think you and I have chatted about, we've already got a project centre half. I don't think we need that one personally.
I think that's the big thing, because when people will say, well, no, like, but Liverpool specifically have looked in this market. We know they tried for Lenny Yoro before, obviously, with the red and that United move with the money, and obviously United's a graveyard for centre halves. And then, of course, Leone, is in the Golden Boy nominees. That was the one they wanted. It's just unfortunate with this horrific injury. I think that's important to say, because where Liverpool want to be and where they want to go, they're not really going to carry 2 project centre halves, aren't they? They like to have a small base of centre halves, like 5, as we all know. It's a bit unusual for them. They're not going to take 2 on towards the smart money says, does it?
No, 100%. I think also, let's be frank as well, if Leone hadn't got injured, right, you never know. He might have had a huge season for us, clocked up 1,500 minutes, and then they might be prepared to take another risk on. But they're not going to do that even more now, because they've got the youngster that they've paid money for. They believe in him. The next season is going to be this season for Leone, right? Or it might be further out than that. So, I think you're right. Whoever they buy now for centre half is going to be players that can come in ready-made. They know they're going to perform, and they're going to be round pegs and round holes, and they're going to perform. They haven't got room for a project, because the project player they bought is injured and they don't want to let him down. They want to bring it back and he's still with their project player.
So there you go, people. I know Debast and Diomande have been linked, and Debast seems to be a fashionable name, and I've seen the highlights of him where people love the on-the-ball stuff. Listen, if he didn't have to defend, Debast looks great on the ball, doesn't he? But unfortunately, it does, especially at Liverpool. In terms of the 2 Germans, it's Schlotterbeck over Upamecano all day long. That's not being derogatory of Upamecano. Probably you just want a full season of Schlotterbeck to see it, but there's so much to like. And say 9 out of 10 passes going into that final score, absolutely sensational. Van Hecke as well. It does seem a smart move in January if they can do it. We will see what happens there. All it leaves me to say as ever is, for the insight, for the analysis, and for giving us the full rundown and watching the footage, Barts, is massively appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was a Transfer Market Metrics special for Anfield Index.